This is Governor Larry Hogan, and I don't always have time to listen to podcasts, but I do enjoy listening to the Maryland Crabs podcast.
Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Fernay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Fernay.
And welcome to the Maryland Crabs podcast. This is John Fernay, and I am flying solo this week because Tim actually was down in Lothian talking to Green Street Gardens and a really cool new techie planty thing that they are releasing, actually right at the same time that this episode is releasing. So go check it out. It's called Breathe, and it's spelled funny. It's B-R-E with the little accent over the E-T-H. If you're not sure what that is, go listen to the crab cake that Tim just did. Very interesting technology coming out from one of our local businesses down in South County. This week's episode was a fun one for me because I went to one of my favorite places over in Eastport, down at the end of 2nd Street. You've got the Annapolis Maritime Museum, and it's just such a wonderful gem that we have here in Annapolis that I wanted to really sort of delve into exactly what it is, what they do for our schools, what they do for tourism, what they do for the community, and speak with one of my favorite people in town, Alice Estrada, who is the executive director of the Annapolis Maritime Museum. And actually, we had M.K. Richardson, who does the fundraising for him. She was there, too. And she's also one of my favorite people in town. So look at that. You've got two of my favorite people in town working at the same location. What were the chances of that? Anyhow, you're going to learn about the Wilma Lee. You're going to learn about their educational programs, their expansion plans, what they're doing online. And if the thing recorded right, you're going to hear a lot of the boats going by because we sat out on the dock and recorded this, and it was just a warm day, but there was a beautiful breeze off of Back Creek. And if you're not familiar with the Annapolis Maritime Museum, please become familiar with it. Even if it's just going online, which you can do at amaritime.org, definitely take in one of their events. Winter's coming. They're going to have their winter lecture series. September still has a few more Thursdays, so go check out one of their sunset concert series. It is a free museum. Just go on down there and peruse what they have. Check out some of the exhibits. And if you have an event to plan there, definitely give them a look because you can't find a nicer venue than you've got right there at the Annapolis Maritime Museum. And before we get into that, we need to pay some bills. But also, I want to remind you, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you give us a rating. And also, do us a favor and recommend the Maryland Crabs to all of your friends and coworkers and everything else. If you've got any ideas for us, any thoughts, any suggestions, we are all ears. You can email us at info@themarylandcrabs.com. You can tweet at us at MDCrabsPodcast. You can find us on Facebook at the Maryland Crabs. Plenty of ways to get in touch with us. Please do. We love hearing from listeners. We love your ideas. And after all, that's what it is all about. Well, we've got to pay some bills for about a minute and a half, and then we've got Alice Estrada from the Annapolis Maritime Museum.
Suicide prevention starts with everyday heroes like you. Join us Saturday, September 22nd at the Navy Marine Corps Stadium in Annapolis as we walk to fight suicide. It's the 10th annual Annapolis Out of the Darkness Walk. Be a part of the movement turning hope into action. Funds raised will benefit the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Register today at afsp.org/Annapolis. Together, we can help stop suicide.
September 29th, the inaugural Twist and Stout Festival at Quiet Waters Park along the shores of the South River. Twist and Stout, a Maryland wine, craft beer, music, food, and arts festival, presented by the Anne Arundel County Department of Recreation and Parks along with the Maryland Wineries Association. Sample dozens of craft beers and Maryland wines, dance the afternoon away to the sounds of Saved by Zero and the Groove Spot Band. Watch the plein air painters and shop dozens of artisans, crafters, and food trucks. Tickets are on sale now at twistandstout.org. twistandstout.org. September 29th, Twist and Stout at Quiet Waters Park, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tickets at twistandstout.org.
Well, we are arguably at one of not even arguably. We are at the most beautiful place in the city of Annapolis. And if you may hear some noises behind us today, it is the lapping of the water in Back Creek against the shores of the Annapolis Maritime Museum. And we are here with Alice Estrada, who is the executive director and the head cheerleader and probably the janitor and
we wear many hats.
Whatever needs the rabble-rouser and the fundraiser and whatever needs to be done here. But we're at the old McNasby's Oyster House, right? Oyster House? What was the former name?
Yes, it was.
And this is now the Annapolis Maritime Museum. And I've known about it forever. But I have to think that a lot of people aren't aware of this gem that's over here. And that's the purpose that we wanted to talk to you, to find out everything that this place does as far as education, events. You've probably been to Eastport A Rockin, and you may not even realize that this museum was here as you surrounded it. They don't open during Eastport A Rockin for good reason, I'm sure. But again, it's right at the mouth of Back Creek. We've got views of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge off in the distance, right across the street. I guess I got to get used to it. I'm not on the road now, but right across the creek from Annapolis Sailing School. The marinas are all around us. Sailboats are going in and out. And every time I come here, we have to sweat. So that's how it seems how it was. We were here when the latest skipjack, right. The Wilma Lee had come in, and it was very warm that day. And it's we're just after Labor Day when it's supposed to be cool, but no, it's 93 degrees and sunny. But we're out on the deck, and we're soaking in the ambiance. Thank you very much for asking us here. And just real briefly, can you give us a brief history of how the Annapolis Maritime Museum came to be?
Certainly, but first and foremost, I want to thank you for calling it one of the most beautiful spots in Annapolis. I'm biased, I know, but truly the vistas here are beautiful at this waterfront location. So the Annapolis Maritime Museum really came about in the year 2000. Prior to that, it had been the Eastport Historical Society, and it was a committee for about a decade. It was in that little barge house, the 600-square-foot barge house on our property, and they started collecting things historical in Eastport. And anyway, it evolved to all of Annapolis in 2000. In 2003, however, and they graduated to this McNasby building, which was also shared with the seafood co-op. So it had ceased being an oyster packing plant, and was the museum, and also was the seafood co-op, which a lot of people do recollect coming down here on their boats and having a really good crab cake back in the day. But in 2003, Hurricane Isabel really annihilated the building, almost took it out.
And I'm going to find pictures and put that in the show notes, because that was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
I'm sitting here on this wall with the McNasby Oyster Company sign over me, and I remember seeing that, the water, I was down here during then, and it was up over that sign, or real close to
yes, it was. Yes, it was. And it took out walls. It really just devastated the building. But, good comes from all adversity, and the folks involved at the time really galvanized and rebuilt. And $2 million later, they have the museum sort of as we know it today, installing new docks and piers and rebuilding the museum with all the electric well above sea level now, because we are designed to take in water. We're definitely in the floodplain.
Yeah, we're 3, maybe 6 feet right now above, not even 6 feet. We're probably about 4 feet above water right now. And it's incredible. Just for those that aren't aware of the building, the underwater was probably 5 foot underwater from where you would typically walk in there.
That's correct. That's correct. So, and, that's a hurricane, so we don't generally get that if we just have a
I would have my head barely above water. You would
I would be drowning. Yeah. Maybe if my heels were on, I'd stand a chance.
But the Annapolis Maritime Museum has just really grown a lot, too. You've got the museum inside, and you've got different events that go on in there, but it's a huge education outreach for our local schools.
Yes. So our mission is to educate youth and adults about Annapolis's rich maritime heritage and the ecology of the Chesapeake Bay, and the two are very intertwined. And so we started off in 2007 with about 300 kids, and this year we'll see about 9,500 through various programs. Some are designed, we try to see them multiple times throughout their young career. So we really do a lot with younger kids. We have a pre-K program, a second grade program, and an oyster education program for the sixth graders. We see quite a few in Anne Arundel County, but we're getting schools from well beyond that too, from Montgomery County and Prince George's County, counties that don't have really great access to water or to get them on the bay. Oftentimes they'll be on a boat for the first time with us, and we just enlighten them about all the great things about the bay and the critters and the water quality.
That's always so special when you see somebody that has never been on the bay, never been on a boat. And I hear stories all the time of even children here in Annapolis that have yet to see the bay.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, this is, I can walk down here, and when I do, I usually stumble home, but that's a different story. But, you can walk down here. We've got such great access. And this is, while not a public, there's a public park right next door, but it is accessible to the public.
It absolutely is, and we pride ourselves on that. We provide public access for launching a canoe or kayak, fishing or crabbing, and as you know, John, only 2% of the bay is accessible to the public. So we provide that both here and at our park location, which we can talk about later. But so yes, we're very proud of that. I will say too, as you mentioned, we do so many different things, and we feel, it's not just me, but the museum industry overall has realized that they have to be more than artifacts under glass. Otherwise, they will not stay relevant.
Do you have artifacts under glass?
We really don't. We're a very hands-on programmatic museum, so we do a lot of programs, and we're, you can pretty much touch anything in our museum. We're not at all what you would call fragile. That being said, we love to be a community anchor. We love to create reasons for people to come. Typically, people will go to a museum one and done, but the T-shirt. But we like to create reasons for people to come back, whether it's for a summer concert or a winter lecture or an education program or a number of other things.
You've done that, and you've really done a fantastic job of integrating into the community and becoming a part of the community. You're at the very end of 2nd Street.
Right.
You go to the end of 2nd Street, and that's where it is, because if you go any further than that, you're going to be in the water, and you'll go through bollards, and it'll be a mess, and fire department will be here and everything else. But, you've got the summer concert series, which is every Thursday night in the summers, over here at the Annapolis Maritime Museum in Eastport. You graciously host Eastport A Rockin every year, which is the third Saturday in June, second or third.
And we merely host that. I can't take the credit. That goes to.
But no, again, that's all about being part of the community and being open to the public and everything else. You have the ability to host all sorts of events here. I know I attended one wedding here, and it was perhaps the most spectacular wedding here, and a lot of people don't know that.
Right.
You've got events, and we're out here on the deck or the dock. The deck, I guess we're technically on a dock. There's water we're underneath it. But there's a wonderful tent. And this is, I would say, probably a 3 3/4 season deck.
Yes, it is. In fact, as you can see, we have the curtains that will close up, and we'll put heaters out here in December and host Christmas parties. So yes, we really want to be, that gathering place for both public and private events, and we aim to do that. We're a pretty busy schedule throughout the year.
You do art debuts.
Yes.
I've been here for that. I've been, and obviously you're membership driven,
right?
And you can always use more membership,
absolutely,
and more donors,
absolutely.
So if you've got money burning in your pocket, you need to call Alice.
Yes, and we have huge plans to grow and expand both campuses. Really, it's time for a refresh on our exhibits. They're 9 years old now, 10 years old actually, and that's well overdue for some reinvention, more creative ways to tell the story, maybe introduce a little more technology. So we've just completed some very exciting plans to redo those, and we're raising money to get them fabricated and implemented.
Well, one of your most recent acquisitions is what I'm looking at over your left shoulder. My right side is the Wilma Lee. And this is a skipjack, one of the few remaining skipjacks that actually worked at Chesapeake Bay.
That's correct.
That you guys found in Ocracoke, if I pronounced that right, Ocracoke?
Yeah, I mispronounced it, but it's Ocracoke. I've been corrected. So.
North Carolina.
Yes.
And it was a tourist attraction, a tourist boat. And she came back up here this summer.
Well, actually, the Wilma Lee found us. A gentleman approached us, me actually, at our annual meeting last year for our membership and said, we have this great boat, and they really couldn't make good use of it. So there was just too much of a tiny population. And yes, there's only 22 remaining skipjacks on the Chesapeake Bay right now. So there's some on the hard, but these are vessels that are able to sail. So we're very excited to have her. She will be a labor of love. She's a wooden boat. But we're fast and furious trying to get her fixed up to speed. We have to do what's called Coast Guard certification before we can take passengers out on her. Okay. So we're well on our way. She was in fairly good shape, just neglected for a couple of years, and a wooden boat just has to get TLC all the time. No. So we're getting caught up.
Like a 2-year-old. You turn your back on them and it's gone. Well, ultimately, are you looking to bring children out and education out on that?
Absolutely.
Or are you looking to do tours, or what's...
Well, we'll probably do a combination of all of the above. So we really think there's not really a way for the public, rather, to get on a skipjack in our community. You can if you're on the Eastern Shore. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation has one, but that's for their own private tours. So we would love to be able to offer this opportunity. It is the state boat, after all, for our visitors to go out on a cruise and do a heritage tour and learn about why the skipjack was so important to harvesting oysters and why the oyster is so important to the Chesapeake Bay. But we also will use it for our students. It will be a great opportunity to really drive home what we're teaching them, both off property as well. But then we'll have it for private events and sunset tours and things of the like. So she'll get some good use.
That's neat. What's the time frame on that being able? Do you have any idea?
Well, we really hope to have her Coast Guard certified maybe late fall, so we probably won't be able to do much with her this year. But next year we'll launch a full-on
campaign. So that gives you the winter to do some maintenance and get her spick and span first.
Get her hull painted and all those good things. But yes.
And she is
75 feet.
Okay.
So yes, she's ginormous, and she'll be able to take 44 passengers at a time. So.
And what I remember when she came in, and it was quite the event when she came in, because she sailed into Back Creek. Actually, she motored into Back Creek to a crowd. There was cannon fire and everything else, and you had just learned that day that it wasn't an acquisition that you needed to fund. So one of your members that donated the funds to complete the purchase, I guess, or reimburse you.
That's correct. We were very, very fortunate that we had a private donor that said, let me take care of this. And again, they wanted, on the condition that they would remain anonymous, which we will certainly honor and respect.
I'll lift that condition. You can tell them it was me. Okay.
Okay, John. Thank you, John. So, but yes, it was incredibly generous. One of the largest gifts the museum's ever received. So, very happy to graciously accepted it.
But that also really speaks to the passion of your membership, the passion of the people that are running the organization, your board, your staff, and everything else, that somebody turns around and, again, I don't know the dollars on that, but obviously that's a significant gift.
Yes.
To be able to sit there and write the check for it. And God knows it's more than I can write a check for right now.
Yeah.
But it's just a wonderful gift that's going to be, use a cliche, it's going to be the gift that keeps on giving, because this is going to be an asset that can be here for literally hundreds of years if properly kept up. And
that's it.
And it's going to be something that is going to be able to educate children and adults and provide entertainment and memories for generations.
And it's our job to preserve maritime heritage. So that is absolutely our, it's not always lucrative, and it's not always a great return on investment down the road, but it is our absolute mission and job. So.
And getting more and more difficult.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you look at the development over on Spa Creek. Mm-hmm. And
yes.
I'll sit there. I'll say it. I mean, I think the Annapolis Yacht Club's buildings on either side of the bridge are atrocities.
Yeah.
They're just too big, and is what it was. You've got other thing, and that's all sort of like the heart of the maritime industry for Annapolis. Right. That is somewhat slowly. And yes, okay, the Annapolis Yacht Club has a little bit of a. It technically is a maritime business,
yes,
but it's not quite the history that we had with the Trumpy yards, with the ship repair yards, the shipyards, the builders, and everything else that we don't have anymore.
Right,
and that's
right.
That's where you come in.
That is where we come in, and I'm glad you brought that up because we do a number of things to capture what was, and we have archived and digitalized all these photographs, all this information. We have a number of oral histories from people like Trumpy himself that talk about what it was like and how it got started. So when I arrived here, a lot of that was stuffed in an attic. I've had a great team led by our museum manager and curator, Caitlin Swaim, and a host of volunteers that are just hungry for it and literally have sat in the hot attic sifting through all of this, but getting it in a format that will last in perpetuity. So you'll be able to go to our website and search Trumpy and get a number of images and information and stories.
Is that available now?
It is. Now, some of these, what we call oral histories, we didn't have permissions on. So you have to go find family members that will say, because most are deceased, and we have to find out if we have permission to use them for, public purposes.
Sure.
It's been an arduous process, but we're getting there. So.
That's fantastic. I remember when the internet first came out, you get on the internet and you'd be sucked into this black hole and you have no idea where you go. My latest thing like that is the Maryland State Archives.
Yeah.
And you just get sucked into that. And I'm definitely going to be checking out your website just to see what that is, because we do have such a rich history. You look at Trumpy. I mean, I want to think that the Sequoia, which was the presidential yacht for Kennedy, that was a Trumpy yacht, I believe.
Yes, it was.
And that was here for a while. It was purchased by an Edgewater man, I think, and now I think it's been sold again. Or maybe that was the Maryland yacht. I can't remember.
Well, there was a whole bunch of Trumpies here 2 years ago, probably 4 of them, and most of them were from the Eastern Seaboard. But all the owners were passionate. One of them was Jack King Cook's son.
Okay.
So he happened to be one of them. His was meticulous, but they really are works of art. It really is a great.
If you've never
part
seen
of
a Trumpy yacht, you need to, and hopefully they'll bring back that Trumpy thing, the raft up or the meet up again that they did a couple years ago, because it was just so spectacular to see.
Yeah.
That was up on Ego Alley. They had them all lined up on the bulkhead there, and it was just the woodwork and the white. It was just it was. You close your eyes, or actually you don't want to close your eyes because you see it, but I mean, it brings you back to an era that just doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't. And
Hinckley's
do a nice job, but it's still not a Trumpy.
Yeah, they do. It's still not a Trumpy. There's a boat. There's a motto. Yeah. Not a Trumpy, but we're a Hinckley.
Darn close.
You briefly mentioned another campus, and this is also something very cool. You've slid across the creek onto the wrong side of the creek, I don't know, over to the Edgewood Road.
Yes.
And this is a city-owned park that was named in honor of former Mayor Ellen Moyer. It's the Ellen O. Moyer, Nature Preserve.
Nature Park at Back Creek.
Okay.
It's a long one.
And it was, to be honest with you, it was neglected. It was a great short little trail to walk. I mean, he had water access. You could get down there and everything else, but there was the building there and everything else. And somebody came up with a brilliant idea and said, let's give it to Alice. She'll take anything or something.
It was sort of like that. Actually, it was beyond neglected. It was decrepit. I mean, really, there was a lot of nefarious activity happening out there, and there's a beautiful old 1934 waterworks building on the property that looked like a haunted house. So it was pretty scary, and we really were bursting at the seams here. We wanted to expand our education programs, but we were lacking the space and the ability. So we did approach the city. They own our property here. They're our landlords, and we said,
Are they good landlords?
Yeah, they really are.
What's the rent? Do they keep jacking the rent on you?
Well, we actually went back to them and said, excuse me, but we've put about $2.5 million in this property, and we're going to put a bunch, maybe you could waive the rent. So we actually were paying them at one point, but they thought that was fair and reasonable. So we basically
you're down to $1 a year.
Yeah, in exchange for taking care of their properties and doing a good job with them. So they knew we had a track record, and they gave us 12 acres on the water, which frankly we could never afford to acquire.
Right.
And so we took it, and we've got marvelous plans in store. And we're starting to try and create the community anchor as we have over on that Annapolis Peninsula.
Well, that sort of brings me to one thing that we want to talk. I don't know whether it was supposed to be at this point or not, because MK gave us this whole agenda as to what we're ignoring. But over here on the maybe this is the Eastern Shore.
Oh, yeah, we call it the McNasby campus, but maybe we should call it the Eastern Shore. But
that would be cool. The Eastern Shore of Back Creek and the Western Shore. But on the McNasby campus, you have the Tides and Tunes concert, which are every Thursday night throughout the summer, pretty much Labor Day or Memorial Day through Labor Day.
Yeah, well, we finished like mid-August or so. So, yes, wildly popular and fun. Yes.
Yeah, it's,
I don't know if you ever made it down to one.
Yeah, they're great. Food trucks are here. You've got booze. You've got great local bands that get up on the stage, and you bring your lawn chair, you bring your blanket. If you got kids, you bring them in their bathing suits, let them splash around on the creek, and just have a great time. You are expanding that into the Western Shore.
Yeah.
Over to, and that was something I think I said to you years ago. I said, you can't stop this in August because they're so fun. Yeah. We need to turn around and bring it into September and whatnot. And you're expanding that over to the Western Shore with the Sunset Series, Summer Sunset Series.
Yes.
And that goes now through September.
Yes. It starts off tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. And
by the way, tomorrow was like probably last Thursday, so...
okay.
I'm sorry. We got that
Thursday,
whole tape
September
delay,
6th, and then I can talk about the eco-goats, and that will have happened last week. Really fun. I'm sure you're aware of the eco-goats that come in and clean the brush out and all the invasive species.
Where's the nearest eco-goats place?
Well, the gentleman we've contracted with is from the Eastern Shore, so he brings he brings them over, sets up the electric fence, and lets them eat away.
I've got to be honest with you. The first time I ever heard about that was about a month and a half ago.
Okay.
In someplace in Ohio, there was an eco-goats company that somehow they escaped, and there were hundreds of goats that descended on this one little neighborhood and started eating all the grass.
Okay, because there's things that you don't want them to eat, so you have to be very careful about it. I'm sure.
And everyone was like, "Where the hell are these goats coming?" And they finally it was exactly what that is. But that's the thing. You can rent goats, bring them out to clear
the brush away. So in part of our goal with this was so that people could see the park, because you really don't know it's there if you don't know it's there. Even if you're doing a drive-by, again, on Edgewood Road towards Bemby Beach Road, it's kind of hidden. So we really wanted to make sure that, and it's all loaded up with brush. So they'll clean that out, and we're going to have a wine, goat, and goat cheese party. Again, that will be past tense. But afterwards, we'll kick off our September sunset. So we'll see how that goes.
And again, those are on Thursdays or a little bit earlier than you have over the summer.
Yes, we do 6 to 8 p.m., so you'll be there for the sunset, because sunset starts around, it's around 7:30 this time of year. It'll probably go later and later, but we'll have it all.
Perfect time to see the new campus.
It is a perfect time to see the new campus, and we're just having a great time with it. But we have really great plans for down the road, including a nice, maritime themed playground, but also improvement to the trails and improved dinghy dock and all the same amenities we offer here at this campus.
Right. Now, do you still have something to do with the Thomas Point Lighthouse?
We do. We're a gateway for the Thomas Point Lighthouse. So this is what we call this. We are a partner in the lighthouse operations in that we provide volunteers and we provide the access to the lighthouse. The U.S. Lighthouse Society actually physically owns the lighthouse and takes care of overseeing renovations.
Now, they own that with the city?
The city, it's confusing, and we've been researching it. The Lighthouse Society, the city, and the Maritime Museum all have sort of a collaboration, but the title, I believe, is held with the U.S. Lighthouse Society.
Okay.
We've actually gone to the Maryland Archives to clarify that, so I'm not giving you a straight answer because I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. But again, and it's not a core thing of the Annapolis Maritime Museum. But
obviously.
This is not a drive-by of the lighthouse. I mean, the schooner Woodwind, which I see sailing right by us out here over your shoulder again, does sometimes get down there. They go around it. There are lots of lighthouse tours that are available where they go and they show you the lighthouse and give you the history. But this is the only one that will take you to and let you get in, climb on Thomas Point Light.
Yes. That's right. It's really a great experience. I know you have done this, and I've done it as well. And I actually should like to see it again because I understand they've made good progress towards some of the renovations.
They had vandalism last year,
right.
And but this is actually getting in. You get to see how the Coast Guardsmen actually worked.
Right. You really get a sense of what it was like to live in there. I mean, for a moment, you just think, "Oh my gosh,
how?"
Yeah. How did they do this?
Animals underneath, sitting there 6 months, icebreakers, the whole 9 yards, out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You can actually see the original light that's up there.
Right.
And it's really fascinating. I will say that it is not a cheap tour.
It's not, and we've talked to them about that, and it's because of the particular boat they need to charter. They've explained that that's what drives the price up.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a cheap tour, but it's worth every single penny of it.
Yeah.
To get the experience, because this is the only screw pile lighthouse that's still in operational existence.
That's correct.
You've got the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum down on the eastern shore that has one, but they have one, right?
Yeah, they have one, but
that's on the land.
It's on the land.
And then you've got the one down in Solomon's.
Right. So, and it's so iconic. I think it's been photographed more than anything else, even maybe than the State House. It's got to rival that.
You're probably right. That or the Bay Bridge.
Yes.
One of the two. But yeah, no, it's so if you ever wanted to go out to see the Thomas Point Lighthouse, again, the Annapolis Maritime Museum is your gateway there.
Your gateway, yes. We have the tours on our website.
Events, again, we really touched on that out here. You open for private events, board events, corporate retreats, all those things. This is really an ideal location. I remember I talked with Jessica Packler and when they were organizing Eastport A Rockin, and they had their board meeting over in the Barge House, which is just a very narrow... why is it called the Barge House?
Well, because it was on a barge, and back in the day, that's where the oyster workers would live. When they were during the season, there was a season to oysters. Now we have oysters year round, but in those days it was only in the R months, and they would put them much like the migrant workers today. That's where they live. So apparently it washed ashore, though. So
so it's actually the house that was on a barge,
right?
So it's an old dormitory.
Yeah, right.
Perfect for a board meeting, a board getaway.
Yes.
It's got a big long table in there. There's, they had chicken wings and everything else, and we were eating. But it was, you've got a lot of spaces here that you can use for any number of things. I've been to receptions on inside in this large room right here.
Yeah, we call that the bay room, but yes.
The bay room.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got outside. We've got, even though it's 93 according to my phone, we've got a nice breeze coming off the thing. It's not horribly uncomfortable here out on the dock. And, you've got the museum as well. You've got the outside and soon to have across the creek.
So, yes, we want to establish that as a great gathering place as well. And I will say that with the museum, when you use it for a private event, you get the whole campus. We let you, sometimes if it's for a wedding, for example, they may want to get married on the beach, or they may want to get married right out here in front of Wilma Lee. But at any rate, we let them use the exhibit room and the entire space. And, yes, the campus the Back Creek campus we're going to establish as a great place to gather as well. So that's what the series is about. It's kind of our first foray into establishing it as a destination for special events and parties and fun stuff too.
Well, and again, the entertainment that you bring into Tides and Tunes and the Sunset series is all about the community again, because you're all local bands.
Right. And we love to do that. We love to showcase them, and they love to play here because they're out under the stars. We get a great crowd. People dance. They are really feeling it. They are never playing to an empty room.
What's kind of cool about the Tides and Tunes, I haven't experienced the Sunset series yet, which I always thought is, I liken it to a Grateful Dead concert in that I've never been to a concert other than a Grateful Dead, but you would see a 70-year-old grandpa grooving with a 3-year-old to the same song, and they're both having the time of their life. And that's very similar to what you have here. And I saw the look in your face going oh, hell, where is he going with this?
No, actually, I'd never been to a Grateful Dead concert. My sister's been to a million, but I love that about the diverse audience here at these concerts. It just makes my heart sing. I see exactly what you described, but then I see the people in their kayaks dancing with their paddles in their hands, and just such a range. And then every once in a while you'll get a pirate in the group, and you're like, where did he come from? It's very random, and someone described it as a John Waters
it's sort of like the Eastport life.
It really is.
Eastport is a little bit of a funky section of Annapolis. It's not quite the bow tie and button down.
We are not buttoned up at all. No, we've definitely got the Eastport vibe going here.
And again, a most spectacular view here. education. If you have kids in school, you want to make sure you're talking to your science teachers and make sure that they're aware of this if you're involved with the PTA. Right?
That's absolutely. But we have a number of programs available through the school system. But even if you're a parent, we have a Schools Out camp. So when school's out, which is a lot, then you have a place to take your child. We'll do a camp for them. And it always involved fun learning opportunities. And I say fun because they don't know they're learning. They're just doing really great things. But we have summer camps, obviously, but a number of different programs. We'll do things with scout groups. We do things with birthday parties. So we have all kinds of ways for parents to experience maritime heritage and bay ecology in, dynamic, fun ways that the kids don't realize they're learning, but they're having fun. And they do, we put the waders on them, they seine and capture the critters, and we get them past all those phobias too. Some of the kids we see are at-risk kids. A lot of them are from Title I schools or kids that come from populations, and some of these kids are afraid of nature. And we have to, say the bugs are okay. They're so it's really a part of that is getting them to bond with nature.
Which, to me, is, I don't want to say depressing, but it's very sad.
It is.
And it's wonderful that you're able to do that. Although I do have, my daughter does have an aversion to seagulls that come, they tend to
Okay, well, they're different.
They kind of just swoop down and
grab the sandwich out of your hand, too.
It's, you look at this, I keep hating to go back to Eastport A Rockin, but to sit here and, you hang out on one of the docks and you're just leaning up against the dock, drinking a beer, getting more sun than you absolutely ever imagined, and listening to fantastic music, and it's just a great thing. Everybody gets along here in the events that you put on, and it's you got white collar, blue collar, no collar, and somehow it all works out.
It does. And we can't forget all the dogs people bring out. They don't come to Eastport A Rockin, but at those concerts, it's a big dog party as well. So all shapes and sizes.
That's true. It's a little bit
small. And they all seem to get along. There's usually one bad one in the bunch, but most.
Who is it? Who is it?
I can't name. I know who it is.
Ooh, it's him. He's back.
One bad doggy.
Well, I'll tell you, what else do you want to tell us about either campus and what you're doing here? I know we do want to talk about membership.
Well, what we're doing, and again, we have all new vistas with the park. So, again, as I mentioned, our goal is to create an exciting destination for the community with the park. But we always try and underscore that with some learning opportunities about our maritime heritage and bay ecology. But if we can do that by getting you there for an evening concert, then all the better. So some of the programs and plans for the park campus, and again, if you see the Waterworks building, it's a beautiful architecturally exterior, but the inside is, a pump station. It's a big...
I will say that it looks, if you're familiar with the, over at the hotel formerly known as the Lowe's, the power plant. It's not too dissimilar from that. It's a very tall, 3.5 story, maybe? 2.5?
It's 2.5 stories. We're getting a learning lab put in there, though. That lab will have all those bay critters and aquariums and microscopes. The kids do learn about water quality, and they test it, and they count spat. And so we'll have a learning lab designed in there. We already have 2 fairly good makeshift classrooms going, but we'll really get those designed and developed so it will be available as well. We're intending to have, adult learning opportunities. This is something we really want to expand to. We focus completely on children. We do offer winter lectures in the winter here at the museum, and again, sometimes they're standing room only. We have a great group of volunteer intellectuals that really vet these speakers, and they're very interesting and good topics.
I forgot about those.
Yes. So they happen 8 weeks during the winter, beginning in mid-January and ending in mid-March.
And those are free for members, right?
They are free for members and $10 for non-members. So they're a good incentive to join us.
And it's a good way to spend an evening in the middle of the week.
Yes.
As opposed to sitting on your couch watching America's Got Talent or whatever.
Sometimes it's a bitter cold February night, and I'm kind of shocked at the people that come out and make it out here. But you'll walk away smarter. There's no question about it.
Well, it doesn't. even in a bitter cold February, it's still a really cool place to go. But
right.
The membership is inexpensive here.
It is.
At the Annapolis Maritime Museum.
It starts at $35. Yes.
$35?
Yes. But $100 is kind of the sweet spot because this $100 membership gets you...
Oh, come on, don't sell yourself short. $1,000 is a sweet spot, people.
You really get invited to very, very fun exclusive tours, for example, of the Thomas Point Lighthouse or a trip on the Wilma Lee. So we'll do very special things at the $1,000 level, which we would be most grateful for because we've got so much on the horizon and we need your investment and support. But we also, at the $100 level, you get day docking privileges, which is a nice thing in Annapolis. If you want to just pull your boat up and go down to Davis's Pub or the Boatyard, you can do that as a member. But you also get into the winter lecture.
Like the summer.
You cannot. We actually have an agreement in our lease with the city that we're only transient docking, so we really can't do overnights, with the exception of Wilma Lee.
But yeah, $100 you can dock here if there's space available.
Right, and that's very popular during our summer concert series. People love to come by boat, so we're full up here during the concerts.
$35 though is nothing.
Yeah.
For a museum membership.
No,
now, is there any reciprocity with any of the other?
Yes, at the $100 level, thank you for asking, you get to get into any other sanctioned maritime museum, including Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, for free.
Okay.
So that's worth $17, per person right there. We are a free museum. We're still offering ourselves free. Our objective is really just to get you informed and enlightened. But, we may consider charging down the road if with our new and improved exhibits that are on the horizon in the next year or two.
Well, I guess it depends on what you bring in.
Right now we're just about exposing people more than generating the income from our museum. So that's another reason to support us because we'd like to continue to offer that for free.
Right. Well, you can find out all sorts of stuff at amaritime.org, and that's the letter A and maritime, as you can figure out how to spell that, .org.
Yeah.
And become a member. I do encourage everybody to do that.
Yeah, and besides that, we invite you to all kinds of member events that build a sense of community as well. So we really are very proud of our membership and offer several opportunities to gather and get to know the community and your neighbors.
How many members do you have?
700.
Wow.
Yeah, we're growing. So, yes, it's a good thing.
I'll give you a chance to brag on Buck.
Yes.
And was he the founding board?
He was pretty close. I mean, he wasn't one of the originals, though he came in very early on, and John is referring to Buck Buchanan. What a great name, right?
Yeah.
Buck Buchanan, and he is
How could
passionate.
he not be with the Maritime Organization?
Oh, yeah. He is passionate. He's just a terrific gentleman who actually really helped spearhead the acquisition of the Wilma Lee. He knew this was what we needed to do, we have a lot on our plate right now, so not everybody was 100% on board with moving forward, but Buck is so supremely enthusiastic. You cannot help but...
Persuasive?
Oh, very much so. He's an old ad guy.
He's like the Eastport Mafia.
Yeah.
We're going to buy the Wilma Lee. You got a problem with that?
It's hard to say no to him. Let's put it that way, for sure. Great guy.
I had the chance to meet him when I first moved down here, probably in '97 or so. And
okay.
Just a tremendous guy. The enthusiasm he has for the city and the area is incredible. I know that he was chairman of your board.
Yes.
For quite some time, and really, I think he led during the time when this museum came from.
He definitely led it through the first phase of the first evolution of the museum, which really brought it to where through Isabel.
Right.
That was all Buck.
Right. Now, who's your chair now?
We have a relatively new chair. Her name is Dr. Carol Sisko, and she's been on the board for maybe 4 years, but prior to that, she had been the chair of our Education Advisory Board. So she has an education background and was very, very influential in really growing that piece of the museum's mission, and so she has recently segued to chairman.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And that's bringing into the next section where we're bringing on the West Campus. And,
yes. So we're no moss grows under us. I mean, we're definitely on the move.
Where do you see the Maritime Museum in 20 years?
Well, I'd love to
For 10
see.
years.
Okay, I would love to see both campuses fully evolved and to their full potential. I mean, we've sort of maxed out McNasby campus at this point, but we can certainly do more with our exhibit experience. But over at the park, I mean, the sky's the limit, and I definitely want to see us connecting those two campuses. And if Gavin Buckley has his way, we'll connect with downtown as well, because really it would be great for people that come to visit us to really to visit all these attractions by boat.
I know he's used the term cultural necklace.
Yeah.
A couple times in getting people from point A to point B to look at, whether it be to Maryland Hall, to West Annapolis, to Maryland Avenue, to downtown, to Eastport, to, some of the, the Banneker Douglas Museum and whatnot, to just sort of, surround the city with the ability to, and he was using that in terms with the bicycle things.
Right.
Now, does the campus over there off of Edgewood Benby Beach Road, does that have room for a Ferris wheel?
Well, we actually toyed with the idea of, what are they called? The
bungee jump?
No, not the bungee.
Zip line?
Zip line. Someone proposed zip line to us.
That's got to hide that high bank there.
They saw we had all the right trees. And I said, "Well, can you make it maritime theme?" But they unfortunately they wanted us to finance it. So
I think we need a pedestrian bridge over Back Creek.
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
Just be a 3/4 mile long bridge.
Yeah. So being a maritime museum, we do want people to experience the water. We do want them to get on a boat. We do want them to appreciate that and connect with the bay. So I do like the idea of connecting the campuses by water. Obviously, the Wilma Lee is an opportunity to do that as well.
Sure. And, I would think that I know that you could take if you wanted to pay for it, you could take a water taxi from here to the other one too as well. So
yes, you could. Absolutely. So, yeah.
Maybe sometime you'll get a shuttle.
Yeah.
Your own little shuttle
So
there,
anyway, and just to follow up, we have some pretty exciting plans. I know this is not visual, but we have some sketch plans of what the park could potentially be in terms of, what we could do with those 12 acres. And I think they're will only crystallize and shape those even more. We're about to embark on yet another strategic plan, but our strategic plans, unlike others, don't collect dust. We really actually execute. So We'll see where we go from here.
Well, I'm excited to see the growth of the Annapolis Maritime Museum over the years. I am more excited to see the growth that's going to be coming in the next few years. I think the acquisition of that campus over there is just, phenomenal.
Yeah.
I will say that since we're recording before, I am looking forward to seeing the Summer Sunset series over there, and that will continue through the end of September on Thursday nights. So if you have nothing to do on a Thursday night, go over there. If you have something to do on a Thursday night, cancel those plans and go over there.
Because it's a beautiful month, weather-wise. It really is.
The cost of admission is very reasonable.
Well, it's free. We appreciate a donation. Right. If you're so inclined, $10 is appreciated, but it's certainly not mandatory. And you can buy beer and wine and enjoy that. So, and we'll have food trucks there, so you can come for dinner. Which
is fantastic. Again, it's all about bringing the community together at the Annapolis Maritime Museum. Again, more information, amaritime.org. And if you've got a wallet that's just bursting at the seams, you want to get in touch with Alice Estrada, who is the executive director. She will be more than happy to relieve that swollen wallet and
we'll put it to good use in making your community better. So thank you.
And it is really all about the community here at the Annapolis Maritime Museum. Thank you very, very much for your time. And I don't want to leave. It's just a really, really gorgeous day.
Let's crack open a bottle of wine. We can hang out. But I want to thank you, John, because I think you do such a tremendous job keeping the community informed. You're really the go-to news source in our community, and I'm really grateful for your having the pulse on everything that's happening.
Well, thank you.
It's a skill. It's inherent. It's not necessarily learned.
Well, we're going to wrap up this one. We're going to go find a bottle of wine, I think, and sit on the end of the dock and watch the boats sail out in the Chesapeake Bay. I do recommend anybody else, if you've got the opportunity, come down and do just that.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them at all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.